This episode of Inside Games is brought to you by HelloFresh. Go to HelloFresh.com and use code POGInside16 for up to 16 free meals.
Welcome back to Inside Games, the only gaming news show brave enough to tell gamers to just chill the hell out a little. Just to chill a bit. Just a bit.
Yeah, just a tiny bit. Just a breath. We don't want anyone suffering from an aneurysm from acute gamer hyper rage. We've lost too many already.
We'll never forget you, Radathan.
He was the top of every scoreboard till DICE took the scoreboards away from us, and then they took him away from us.
Man, given the anger out there, you'd think game companies did collect everyone's firstborn instead of just releasing some broken games. I mean, community moderators, even game developers themselves, they're starting to speak up about it.
Yeah, which begs the question, are game developers just complaining because they're justifiably experiencing some negative consequences from launching incomplete products? Or are people really blowing this all out of proportion and acting like a bunch of little gamer babies with gamer poop in their gamer pants?
All right, Lawrence, that's a bit much. We all know gamers don't wear pants. They shit directly into those gamer chairs. There's a hole in there. It's like a toilet.
That's what we call a shitacular.
All right, enough of the scatological humor. Before we start running down on the news, we need to make a disclosure, though. Raise those gamer shields a little bit, all right?
Yeah, lest the ire be thrown at us, although somebody's probably in the middle of a very long comment right now. Please listen, because this gets dropped a lot, and everyone says that. It's okay to be upset. It's okay to be disappointed. If you pay $60 for a video game and it doesn't work, or it doesn't deliver the amount of content you want, or that was promised or even implied by developers, by all means, be disappointed and express that. That's totally fine.
The issue here is that many people have taken it well beyond that. Fixating on negatives, roiling in negativity, it just escalates. It spills over into antisocial behavior that is well over the line. Well, I mean, like by a lot. Personal insults, threats, organized harassment campaigns. None of that is good.
Yeah, so to reiterate once more, you can be mad. It's fine. You don't need our permission to feel how you feel. Not that you were waiting for that. It's every time we talk about this, there are lots of people that assume that they're included with the problem actors we're talking about just because they feel negatively about a game or decide to express that online. If you haven't spent hours bashing out emotional manifestos on Reddit about what an insult this game is to you and your gamer legacy, and you're not directly insulting developers themselves or their families or encouraging others to do the same, you're likely in the clear here.
Hopefully we caught a few people in the middle of hammering out a long and really upset YouTube comment. So it's okay, you don't need to leave it, you're all right to be upset. On with the news!
The latest episode of This Is Why Gamers Can't Have Nice Things kicked off when Electronic Arts Global Director of Integrated Comms for Shooters and Star Wars, Andy McNamara, God, what a title, had the audacity to plead for sanity and understanding after the holiday break.
In a now deleted tweet screenshotted by Danny on PC and reported by mpfirst.com, McNamara commented on the brutal expectations from the Battlefield community.
Quote, Battlefield fans are pissed we didn't do enough updates or communication during the holiday break. Guys, people gotta rest, McNamara tweeted. Let us get back from break and get back to work. Love you guys, but these expectations are brutal.
Now, to be fair to the Battlefield community, they've been waiting for some kind of communication about the pace of the updates, maybe an acknowledgement, even an apology about the state of the game. Instead of that, the first official message from EA is one that appears to chastise players for being so impatient. Not a good move here, given how passionate those Battlefield fans are. Trust me, I'm there every day. I see them.
I have to admit, it's also, from my perspective, it's a little confusing that McNamara said that. Not that he was out of line or anything, but he has decades of experience in games media as the former editor-in-chief of Game Informer. He was there for over 10 years, I think almost on 20. You'd think his time there would have illustrated to him exactly how upset fan bases react to any amount of candor. But here we are.
Battlefield community, or rather certain inconsolable parts of the Battlefield community, reacted about as maturely as you might expect. The Battlefield 2042 subreddit instantly mocked McNamara's request for understanding with memes and threads reminding everyone all the reasons they should be mad about Battlefield, just in case anyone was on the verge of moving on with their life.
And before we move on with this episode, a quick word from our sponsor.
Inside Games is sponsored by HelloFresh. That's right, we are sponsored by HelloFresh. So you can get mouth-watering seasonal recipes and fresh, pre-measured ingredients delivered directly to your door. With HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit, HelloFresh just makes cooking at home fun, easy, and affordable. No matter what's going on in the world, everyone's got to eat. That's why HelloFresh is here to make eating better and easier. There's no grocery store, no meal planning, just everything you need to prepare wholesome, delicious meals, all delivered to your door. First and foremost, HelloFresh's recipes are delicious. HelloFresh offers way too many recipes to choose from each week to help you break out of your recipe rut. They also make eating well easier with many family-friendly, calorie-smart, pescatarian, and veggie options every week. Plus, every recipe is packed with fresh produce sourced directly from farmers. HelloFresh also has more 5-star reviews than any other meal kit, so you know you're getting something delicious. HelloFresh actually also helps you reach your goals, and this is something Lawrence and I are very passionate about. If you set a bunch of New Year's resolutions, anything like that, do things a little differently. Regain control over your food choices with HelloFresh. You can get a home-cooked meal on the table every day. Let HelloFresh help with 50 weekly menu and market items to choose from, so you can think less about what's for dinner and more about achieving those New Year's resolutions. This year, do things differently. Regain control over your food choices with calorie-smart and carb-smart recipes. You can indulge in delicious meals without worries because you can see all that stuff on paper. You see what you're getting, and you can stay on track with simple recipes and fresh pre-portioned ingredients that help limit meal prep time and cut back on the trips to the grocery store. So you're going to use the link in our description, click that link, or go to HelloFresh.com, use code POG-Inside16. POG-Inside16 is our code for up to 16 free meals plus 3 surprise gifts across 6 HelloFresh boxes, all with free shipping. The gifts include free appetizers, desserts, free premium recipes, lots of stuff. So make sure you go click that link in our description for up to 16 free meals plus 3 surprise gifts, or use the code POG-Inside16 when you go to HelloFresh.com. All right, welcome back. Last we left off, the Battlefield subreddit didn't react very well to being told they had brutal expectations for wanting to play a fixed game.
So far, really, it's just another day on the internet, but this incident and the flurry of negativity that followed seemed to push the subreddit moderators past the breaking point. On January 6th, Battlefield 2042 subreddit moderators posted an open letter to the subreddit saying, quote, "It's an understatement when we say this subreddit has grown incredibly toxic."
Yeah, the post continues saying, quote, "It's near impossible to have a simple discussion without insults being flung around at each other, and it's really starting to harm the entire Battlefield community and each of us that are part of it."
Mods then laid out their moderating plan. If toxicity decreases automatically due to the notice, the subreddit will continue as normal. Great. Toxicity stays where it is, the mod teams will start locking down threads early, and if it continues to rise even after that, they'll just lock down the entire subreddit for a while.
Just like us, the mod team had to raise those gamer shields too. 2 days later, on January 8th, the mod team posted a follow-up to clarify that they are specifically talking about, quote, "threats and harassment versus general criticism of the game." Again, you are allowed to be mad at a video game if it doesn't work or it doesn't do what you want, but just keep it civilized for the love of God.
Like pretty much every non-psychopath, the subreddit mods draw the line at explicit calls to violence or personal harm, such as wishing that the developers would get COVID and die, or wanting to burn down DICE headquarters, or saying that DICE developers deserve all the abuse they're getting.
Yeah, none of that is okay. None of that is do I need to tell none of that is okay? Do I need to say that out loud? Is that a thing?
For some people, I think need to hear it, but they are convinced that it is okay, so, you know, we're just kind of at an impasse of civility there, I guess.
Amusingly, that thread also had to be locked due to, quote, "some individuals on a completely unverified witch hunt." A few days later, subreddit mod Suiting Uncle 620 resigned from their mod position in a statement on Twitter due to, quote, "a fabricated screenshot insinuating they were a pedophile."
Yeah, this is, I mean, obviously we can't comment on that too deeply, but it's a sign of the negativity when it starts turning in on itself. When you start cannibalizing your own mod crew who are just trying to keep, anyway, it's like, that's when it's definitely gone to a bad spot. Quote, "I didn't sign up for this, any of this," Suiting writes on Twitter. "Yes, I may rub some people the wrong way, but outright making doctored screenshots to make me look sick is horrible. It's no wonder why so many people have turned away from Reddit and our Battlefield 2042 specifically. It's stuff like this that hurts people and turns them away from the community they once loved. I feel awful, sick, and disgusted. I'm a volunteer who helps clean a community. I'm a human being. Doing shit like this ruins people emotionally."
He's absolutely correct, by the way. That is all absolutely correct. And as sad as it is to say, this is becoming a weirdly cyclical phenomenon in gaming communities. Game comes out and it's bad. Few people voice their disappointment in unacceptable ways. When anyone calls that out, Suddenly, everyone disappointed by the game feels lumped in with the extreme weirdos, and then they lash out too.
All the while, and this is the insidious part, a few very bad actors are moving inside of that community, intentionally escalating toxicity and refining negative talking points to recruit new people and keep them mad too. It becomes a self-feeding system, accelerating with intensity over time rather than calming down. Apparently there are people out there with, nothing better to do than organize negativity campaigns around games they don't like. I don't know where they find the time. Some of the posting density of some of these people is just outrageous. Go play another video game, please. Find joy in this life, and it's not this, but God.
Halo Infinite went through a similar cycle in early December, with the subreddit moderators even going so far as to lock the entire subreddit down for a bit to force everyone to blow off some steam. In a December 4th post, Halo subreddit mod 343 Guilty Spark wrote that, quote, toxicity had reached a breaking point and was increasing exponentially.
Yeah, it's that runaway condition where everyone just loves getting in a big circle and shouting at each other about how mad they are. And that doesn't calm anyone down, shockingly. It just makes people more and more desperate for solutions or recompense in a shorter amount of time, and that goes nowhere. This is a phenomenon. It's happened multiple times. It's actually driven people to create communities that explicitly disallow that kind of behavior, called low-sodium subreddits. By our observation, this trend kicked off with the king of disappointing releases in Cyberpunk 2077.
On release, and for months after, posters filled the Cyberpunk 2077 subreddit with angry memes and cyclical conversations that just repeated over and over how bad the game was and how ashamed CD Projekt should be. Users that wanted to actually talk about the game itself migrated to the low-sodium Cyberpunk subreddit, which focuses on positivity, kindness, constructive criticism, and does not allow low-effort complaining, insults, trolling.
Fittingly, there are now low-sodium subreddits for Battlefield 2042, Halo, and Destiny, born out of a similar desire to actually discuss the game and maybe talk about the fun you're having with it, then spend hours obsessing about the things that are wrong with it.
In an email to Vice, our Low Sodium 2042 moderator Scruple said, quote, we couldn't see cool clips, nice tips, or funny situations, but only the bad aspects of the game. Then it became even worse with toxicity on top of the negativity, and that's when the Low Sodium 2042 subreddit started growing.
Scruple goes on to describe the real-life consequences of this online negativity. Quote, those toxic behaviors online have an impact in real life on real people, like Dice's dev or the subreddit mod getting harassed, and it shouldn't be tolerated. This is beyond crazy, and the growing toxicity in those subreddits in the last month directly led to that.
Even the Final Fantasy XIV community, which has long been uncharacteristically patient and welcoming as far as online communities go, received some words of guidance from series director Naoki Yoshida on this topic.
Speaking during the Japanese radio Mog Station stream on January 9th and translated by Reddit user 11mile, Yoshida asked for players to, quote, imagine that you're speaking face-to-face with a developer whom you may not know their name or face, and imagine how they'd feel before sending your feedback over. I
cannot tell you how many times I've said this very statement and tweeted it, and I say it on the Twitch all the time. Yoshi P is nailing it here, and no one takes their meaning. You got to take the meaning from Yoshi P. He also described that certain players called antis, or haters, would attack the game and other players without even having played it, and that, quote, those strong words used in arguments against people ended up holding people back because of this.
Yeah, he then cited a metaphor of, quote, seeing the condition of a car in New York downtown gets worse when it's already in a bad enough condition. As far as I can tell, that's a reference to the broken windows theory.
The idea is, if that community has visible signs of social decay, aka the broken windows all around New York City in the early 80s, that it would prime normally pro-social individuals to behave in antisocial ways. So if all the windows are busted and your neighborhood looks like shit, why should you care about throwing your trash on the ground?
Yeah, why does it matter? You're not ruining it. It's already like that, right? So if you take that idea and apply it to online spaces, it could certainly explain the runaway negativity experienced in both the Halo and Battlefield 2042 subreddits. And we've seen it online before. By my accounting, this used to be the case with YouTube comments. They were so filled with negativity that people came to it to be negative. It was just associated completely. That's where all the garbage is. People would go there just to talk shit, and the best dunks were upvoted to the top. It was just kind of understood that that's where you go to monster on the content you just watched. People that, watch the content and scroll down to leave a nice or even a neutral comment see all this negativity and then may turn negative themselves because that's just what you do there.
Well, also you get thumbs up, Lawrence. You get those fake thumbs up, and that's what they're doing. Now, we're not suggesting that the broken windows theory is absolute. The concept itself has been used to justify some more authoritarian policing measures, such as New York's stop and frisk policy in the early aughts.
Yeah, it has to be applied with moderation and judgment. But, you know, this is the dance, and we're seeing the exact same things happening online now. People blast negativity under the guise of free speech, and then they howl that their freedoms are going away when people just want to control the tenor of the community, insisting that they have the right to say whatever they want to say, even if it's, you know, ruining the temperature of the room.
Regardless, like Scruple, Yoshida points out the real-world cost of fostering communities that go over the line. Quote, it will result in staff members getting gradually hurt, and it's especially evident when the staff member works so hard on it. And this doesn't help anyone. Neither the staff members nor the players either. This will completely drain away their motivation, and worse, they'll end up quitting because of it, which is why I hope that everyone can understand that.
I have personally spoken to more than one game developer that left the scene because of, you know, gamer negativity. And it wasn't even as bad then as it is now. So it is resulting in talent leaving. You know, some people say they deserve to leave because they did a bad job, but, you know, they're going to say that.
And of course, Yoshida had to put up the gamer shields like we all do, explicitly disclosing that, quote, I don't mean everything should be given praise. Mistakes are mistakes, of course, and they should be notified.
Yeah, well, certainly. Gamers have never had a problem with that. Picking apart releases with a hypercritical eye is nothing new. In some degree, every enthusiast group is kind of like that. You just get really in the weeds and then you conflate passion with kind of criticism, and it kind of gets balled together. But with subreddits threatening to shut down and developers pleading for civility and then having to delete those things, it begs the question, is toxicity actually getting worse?
Yeah, I guess the fair question to ask first is, are games getting worse? That's theoretically what, and I'm saying this with giant air quotes, justifies the toxicity.
Yeah, on that point, Bruce, I think we're both in agreement that no, games are not significantly worse now than they always have been.
Oh no, Lawrence, people are gonna be upset about that statement. Games are the worst they've ever been!
And they can be, but I've been playing games for a long time, and I've seen some pretty busted games. You have too. A couple landed at the same time, which kind of makes it seem like a huge deal, but also we're in this window post new console launch when that tends to happen. So it is part of a cycle, and we're kind of in a lull right now, but we'll come out of it. Or we won't, whatever. That's the thing though, it's the curation of information that really crafts an image that things are worse now than they have been. There's kind of for some of the factors we've been talking about, the way that communities whip themselves up into a fury with neatly curated lists and memes to help justify all the outrage. That's kind of the new factor here.
The game's media, which is to say, us, play our part in all this too. Negative leaning headlines get more clicks than positive ones, and that's just a fact. We say it all the time here. People like a fight. They like it when things go wrong. People love to watch a train wreck. That's a thing that everyone does. We try to be as conscientious as we can with our reporting, but we see the same forces that cause skewed Reddit threads to float to the top or dunk posts on Twitter to rake in the likes. Social media refinement has made it not only easy to find solidarity in your frustration, but to also find algorithmically curated content that further engages you in it. Amusingly, the most negativity we see on this channel is that we aren't negative enough.
And that's the kind of content that a lot of people really like to consume, is the ones that fire them up and convince them honestly that there's an agenda, or that they're part of a movement. You have to save video games, and you can do it by harassing developers. That's not what we do here. And I on that note, I do have to say that, and this is also pretty anecdotal, but there is kind of a new breed of troll out there that really does move in the shadows and makes all of this a whole lot worse, really. And really, it kind of started all with Gamergate, as far as I can tell. Not that itself, but just the technique of trolling. Because I know you throw out Gamergate and people flip out. Gamergate introduced a new kind of trolling, a social manipulative troll. In the past, you'd have somebody jump in with a shit meme, and like if they made a couple people mad, they'd be like, I did it. Now you have people writing whole conspiracy theories and weaponizing anything they can get their hands on, pulling things out of context, doctoring screenshots, all for the sake of like inflaming things, because that's the game. The game is keeping people mad. The game is manipulating people. And some of these are out there, man. Specifically with Battlefield, there's accusations that games media and all the people that were reporting on the Battlefield closure were getting paid off by DICE to make it seem worse than it was. Reddit moderators are in the pockets of big corporations. They're Reddit mods, man. fabricating screenshots, doxing members of the community with no goal, like I said, other than to just make things worse, because that's some people's hobbies. They've always been there, but like post-2013, their techniques got a lot more refined, manipulative, and successful.
Consequences are starting to become visible to us now in the form of alternative subreddits and periodic requests for basic human civility, which ironically, hilariously never go over well, which is, oh gosh, it's so frustrating.
The only thing you can do is beg for forgiveness. That's it. You have to lay down on the ground with your face in the dirt and say you're sorry and cry. That's like the only messaging that upset gamers will bother to listen to without getting upset. Imagine working for 4 years on something and then having to do that just so people won't be mad for a little bit. Ugh.
We've actually spoken to a few developers about the topic, and the takeaway largely seems to be that toxicity is worse than it was 10 or so years ago for a variety of factors, the biggest of which is social media.
Yeah, if game developers are online in any regard, then they will inevitably see toxicity from someone because it serves it to you. Now, to some degree, this is just a sad truth of being a public figure in any capacity on anything that people like, but organized harassment campaigns have made it utterly inescapable.
Case in point, once Andy McNamara had deleted his original post asking for consideration, feedback then flowed to another post he'd made weeks earlier, stating his zero-tolerance policy for people barging into non-game-related conversations with their gamer grievances.
So yeah, if you work on a high-profile video game, social media toxicity around your work is just kind of inescapable to some degree. It's come to be regarded as sort of an occupational hazard for the games industry. Sort of, you know, kind of like if you work on Star Wars, you'll probably get a lot of very opinionated people firing their unsolicited opinions at you about Book of Boba Fett, even if you didn't work on that. And, you know, you're just trying to post pictures of your dog. So, I don't know, in the past that pervasiveness would only exist on the game's private forums that were run on the company's own website and moderated by that company. So that's another community mainstay that's basically just eroded away.
Yeah, that's right. They used to have like a forum based on the video game. That's where you go to complain about the game, which was that makes totally a lot of sense. But now it's everywhere.
Yeah, if you wanted to not look at it, you would just not go to those forums and go onto the rest of the internet where that shit didn't follow you, really.
Other things that are just kind of gone now are just doing interviews, allowing developers to speak candidly. There's just no incentive for game creators to talk about their work anymore. I mean, really, honestly, they're telling you that. Yoshi P said that. As comments still just be taken out of context, used to reinforce campaigns telling players they were lied to. That's just...
Yeah, games marketing is weird. Like it used to be, you'd go to E3 and interview a ton of developers and they'd tell you about their game. But, you know, now a game comes out and people will find that stuff from 3 years ago, find one quote that promised one feature that's not in there and run with it. So the easiest way to prevent that from happening, don't let them talk. The only marketing material you put out is very like explicitly crafted and leaves nothing to, well, ideally leaves nothing to the imagination at this point. So it's become a lot of expectation management.
Look, we are genuine video game lovers. We have been for, I mean, I'm talking 30, 40 years now. I've been playing video games since I was 5. Lawrence is right there with me. We implore all of you that are watching, just play something else. Say, wow, man, this sucks. If you don't like your video game, move on. Get a refund, move on. There's so much choice. Walking away from under-delivering games is how you change this system. We talked about this weeks ago. It's how you change the system. And it's okay if you want to go onto the games forum and you go, you know what, man, it's I didn't have the one thing that I really wanted and that sucks or whatever. Get your refund, move on.
Yeah, it's the thing is that's at odds with this idea that you're owed something back, which I get. You know, you put your money, your time, and your emotional investment into a game property, and then you get a big pile of shit in return. It feels insulting, right? It feels like you've been damaged and wronged, and you want justice. But you gotta, like, there's no morality in the market. You bought a product, and it wasn't the product you wanted. Sometimes you can get a refund. Sometimes it's on you to research that purchase before you do it. And that's just how adults function most of the time. So...
Capitalism right now, we are in a buyer beware scenario. What that means is the buyer has to beware of what they're buying. They do the research, and then when they buy something bad, this has happened to me countless times. When you buy something bad and it doesn't work, you're just like, fuck. Like you file a complaint with the Better Business Bureau, or you try and get a refund, or you do something like that, and then you move on. You don't go on there and death threat and harass, and none of that shit helps anybody.
Yeah, or in the case of Battlefield, maybe understand that no Battlefield has ever launched in a good condition. Maybe don't fixate on all the lists that really justify that you are allowed to be mad. You are, but it's it really does involve, I think, putting down that emotional hurt, which all of the subreddit posts and all of the angry videos, they're designed to encourage that, because boy does it feel good to feel like you've been wronged and you're on a crusade. But nope, sorry, it's just a $60 toy. That's it. With mans that run around and shoot at each other.
It's another thing. I promise the trap is really easy to fall. You get the Reddit upvotes, or you get the likes or the retweets, or what. That's another really easy trap to fall into. I could get on right now Twitter and start tweeting about how much I hate Battlefield, and I get shitloads of retweets and likes and everybody. But that's not me being honest with myself. That's just me piling on. So that's why I don't do it. I could cash this in right away, but I don't do it.
That's another thing to bring up is media types and people that author Reddit posts and stuff. It may seem like they're speaking with genuine enthusiasm for the community, but they also might understand that this is a way to get visibility on themselves and their profiles and their media and stuff like that too. So it can also just be a disingenuous play from them to boost themselves and chase some clout. See that a lot too.
At the end of the day, not illegal to be an asshole. Some people love being assholes. More and more, the solution just seems to be ignore them, remove them, move on with your life. That seems to be the solution. And so we hope that you guys can do that too.
I remember a lot of people were pissed at me for just saying Halo Infinite was good. And then they started listing all these things that old Halo had. And I was just like, but Master Chief Collection's right there. And it works on a modern Xbox. Can't you just play that? And then everyone hits you with the meme of Don Matrix saying that like, if you want to play old Halo, go play old Halo, as though that ends the conversation. I don't know, I don't really have a point here. I'm just confused why that's such a checkmate. Actually, yes, just go play old Halo. I don't know, there's tons of people who like just play retro games because they like retro games. They don't insist that every new game be like a retro game. They just go play the retro games and have fun. So if you like old Battlefield, go play old Battlefield.
People are doing it. They are going to play old Battlefield. And that's great.
That's perfect. Because you know what's going to turn EA's head is if there's a number spike on old Battlefield. Then they're going to make a game like old Battlefield. But if it's just a subreddit that is just a bunch of, like, to them, what appears to be a bunch of kids having meltdowns about it, they're just going to ignore it. Because it doesn't change any meaningful metrics. But if there's money to chase, they're going to chase it. Time and time again, I see the same arguments of people that want to spew negativity arguing on behalf of the constructive nature of that negativity. Of like, oh, if we just be quiet, then they'll do whatever they want. But truly the way that this always ends up, always, is that those people get tossed out of a community, the community goes back to normal, and life carries on. There's truly nothing gained from keeping toxic, negative, angry people in your community. You kick them out, they'll go somewhere else, but that's not your problem anymore. And kind of Bruce, like you said, there's just assholes in this world, and until it's illegal to be an asshole, they're gonna be around. So truly it is just show them the door and just carry on having a good time with the people you trust.
And I'll reiterate what Yoshi P said. The worst scenario is those people that are being really negative and super toxic, they're ruining your art. They're ruining the people that are making your art. And that's bad for you as a person that likes video games. So don't do that. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, don't pile on. Constructive criticism is absolutely welcomed. But the piling on the negativity is going to get people to leave your industry. They don't want to do it anymore. And if you like the video game to begin with, then that means that you're fucked. You don't get the stuff you want. So,